Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. We'll pick up on Acts. Come to an end here. A couple more postings. This is the Acts 23-24. Then we'll have 25-26 on the next one. Here we have Paul had been thrown in jail and then set free. We found out he was a Roman citizen. So he's standing before, right now, Sanhedrin. The officials didn't want to deal with it, kind of like with Jesus. So they sent him to stand before the Sanhedrin. Acts 23. Paul looked straight at the Sanhedrin and said, "My brothers, I fulfilled my duty to God in all good conscience to this day." At this, the high priest Ananias ordered those standing near Paul to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, "God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. You sit there to judge me according to the law, yet you yourself violate the law by commanding that I be struck." Those who were standing near Paul said, "How dare you insult God's high priest?" God didn't appoint these people. All these people out there, just like today, they're not appointed by God. Paul replied, "Brothers, I did not realize that he was the high priest. What is written, do not speak evil about the ruler of your people." Then Paul, knowing that some of them were Sadducees and the others Pharisees, called out in the Sanhedrin, "My brothers, I am a Pharisee, descended from Pharisees. I stand on trial because of the hope of the resurrection of the dead." When he said this, a dispute broke out between the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and the assembly was divided. The Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, and that there are neither angels nor spirits. Well, they're idiots. But the Pharisees believe all these things. There was a great uproar, and some of the teachers of the law, who were Pharisees, stood up and argued vigorously. "We find nothing wrong with this man," they said. "What if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him?" The dispute became so violent that the commander was afraid Paul would be torn to pieces by them. He ordered the troops to go down and take him away from them by force and bring him into the barracks. The following night the Lord stood near Paul and said, "Take courage. As you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so you must also testify in Rome." Next morning some Jews formed a conspiracy and bound themselves with an oath not to eat or drink until they had killed Paul. More than 40 men were involved in this plot. They went to the chief priests and the elders and said, "We have taken a solemn oath not to eat anything until we have killed Paul. Now then, you and the Sanhedrin petition the commander to bring him before you on the pretext of wanting more accurate information about this case. We are ready to kill him before he gets here." But when the son of Paul's sister heard of this plot, he went into the barracks and told Paul. Then Paul called one of the centurions and said, "Take this young man to the commander. He has something to tell him." So he took him to the commander. The centurion said, "Paul, the prisoner, sent for me and asked me to bring this young man to tell you because he has something to tell you. The commander took the young man by the hand, drew him aside, and asked, "What is it you want to tell me?" He said, "Some Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul before the Sanhedrin tomorrow on the pretext of wanting more accurate information about him. Don't give in to them, because more than 40 of them are waiting in ambush for him. They've taken an oath not to eat or drink until they have killed him. They are ready now, waiting for your consent to the request." The commander dismissed the young man with this warning: "Don't tell anyone that you have reported this to me." Then he called 2 of his centurions and ordered them, "Get ready a detachment of 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, and 200 spearmen, to go to Caesarea at 9 tonight. Provide horses for Paul so that he may be taken safely to Governor Felix." He wrote a letter as follows: "Claudius Lysias, to His Excellency Governor Felix. Greetings. This man was seized by the Jews, and they were about to kill him, but I came with my troops and rescued him, for I had learned that he is a Roman citizen. I wanted to know why they were accusing him, so I brought him to their Sanhedrin. I found that the accusation had to do with questions about their law, but there was no charge against him that deserved death or imprisonment. When I was informed of a plot to be carried out against the man, I sent him to you at once. I also ordered his accusers to present to you their case against him." So the soldiers, carrying out their orders, took Paul with them during the night and brought him as far as Antipatris. The next day they let the cavalry go on with him while they returned to the barracks. When the cavalry arrived in Caesarea, they delivered their letter to the governor and handed Paul over to him. The governor read the letter and asked what province he was from. Learning that he was from Cilicia, he said, "I will hear your case when your accusers get here." Then he ordered that Paul be kept under guard in Herod's palace. Chapter 24. So his own people turning against him. 5 days later, the high priest Ananias went down to Caesarea with some of the elders and a lawyer named Tertullus. They brought their charges against Paul before the governor. When Paul was called in, Tertullus presented his case before Felix. "We have enjoyed a long period of peace under you, and your foresight has brought about reforms in this nation. Everywhere and in every way, most excellent Felix, we acknowledge this with profound gratitude. But in order not to weary you further, I request that you be kind enough to hear us briefly. Already starting to play politics with him. We have found this man to be a troublemaker, stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world. He is a ringleader of the Nazarene sect, and even tried to desecrate the temple, so we seized him. By examining him yourself, you will be able to learn the truth about all these charges we are bringing against him. The other Jews joined in the accusation, asserting that these things were true. There's a replay of Jesus. When the governor motioned for him to speak, Paul replied, I know that for a number of years you have been a judge over this nation, so I gladly make my defense. You can easily verify that no more than 12 days ago I went up to Jerusalem to worship. My accusers did not find me arguing with anyone at the temple or stirring up a crowd in the synagogues or anywhere else in the city, and they cannot prove to you the charges they are now making against me. However, I admit that I worship the God of our ancestors as a follower of the way, which they call a sect. I believe everything that is in accordance with the law, and that is written within the prophets. And I have the same hope in God as these men themselves have, that there will be a resurrection of both the righteous and the wicked. So I strive always to keep my conscience clear before God and man. After an absence of several years, I came to Jerusalem to bring my people gifts for the poor and to present offerings. I was ceremonially clean when they found me in the temple courts doing this. There was no crowd with me, nor was I involved in any disturbance. But there are some Jews from the province of Asia who ought to be here before you and bring charges if they have anything against me. Or these who are here should state what crime they found in me when I stood before the Sanhedrin, unless it was this one thing I shouted as I stood in their presence, which was, It is concerning the resurrection of the dead that I am on trial before you today. Then Felix, who was well acquainted with the way, adjourned the proceedings. When Lysias, the commander, comes, he said, I will decide your case. He ordered the centurion to keep Paul under guard, but to give him some freedom and permit his friends to take care of his needs. Several days later, Felix came with his wife, Drusilla, who was Jewish. He sent for Paul and listened to him as he spoke about faith in Christ Jesus. As Paul talked about righteousness, self-control, and the judgment to come, Felix was afraid and said, That's enough for now, you may leave. When I find it convenient, I will send for you. At the same time, he was hoping that Paul would offer him a bribe, so he sent for him frequently and talked with him. When 2 years had passed, Felix was succeeded by Porcius Festus, but because Felix wanted to grant a favor to the Jews, he left Paul in prison. So we'll end it there. Before we finish with 25 and 26. I'm sorry, there's 28 of them. So two more videos. So they're playing the same games we played with Jesus. And they never learned. They never learn. They still don't learn today. So we'll end it with that. There's not really too much to learn there other than the observance that, hey, they hadn't changed, they hadn't learned anything, still doing the same things they did with Jesus. Now I want to talk about correlation to the first page of my last message, my last Rhythm and Rhyme message. Some things I experienced and found out about. Excuse me. 2 nights after receiving that message, my daughter's spirits came to me and said, "We're traveling. Spirit travels at night in places where something for me to learn. Plus, I grow stronger in spirit and against darkness, and some things I learn conscious of, some things I learn, most of them subconsciously, which come out through later messages." But they showed up and said, "We're going to Parnassus." My first thought was Parnassus, New Jersey. What's there to learn? And they know Mount Parnassus, which is in Greece. So we looked up Mount Parnassus in Greece, and it's interesting to see that it was near the Oracle of Delphi. Interesting. Which is a prophetic. Oracle was a prophecy, prophetic person or place, which dispensed prophecies. It was also a sacred mountain, believed to be by many to be a home of muses, and it was considered home of poetry and music and learning. In other words, rhythm and rhyme. So the fact that this occurred 2 days after I received this message from Archangel Michael I went to this travel to this Mount Parnassus, which is believed to be the home of poetry, rhyme, and learning, with rhythm and rhyme. So I don't know, and I had the sense. I haven't got confirmation, but I know how this works. Learning, when they're trying to teach me something, when they want me to seek something, uh, which I'll read in this first page of this last message, the correlations, what I found out. So I found out that Michael Archangel started the rhythm and rhyme at the direction of God. So here we got this mountain I've taken to the visit. Perhaps that's where the initial rhythm and rhyme word was given to me in the previous life, or maybe it was the first place it was given to mankind at that spot. It's in Greece, but doesn't mean necessarily during the Greek Empire, civilization. It'd be a lot further than that. So that was interesting. And then the Parnassian movement, or Montparnasse, France, where a lot of became a center of poetry and learning and music, arts, culture, back in France in the 1800s. So interesting. Then also initially looked at the Google Translate for the word Goss, which I've been researching on the Enochian Enoch writings, and haven't found anything on it. I found some other things that attributed to Enoch that I was told about in rhythm and rhyme messages some time ago. So they hadn't found anything about Goss, G-O-S, capital G-O-S. The only thing I'd found at that point was, I said, was on this linguistics.stack exchange where somebody posted that GOS singular, GOSI plural, and meant became via harmony, which kind of works for what Mike was talking about. But I thought, put in Google Translate, thinking it was Greek, my girlfriend did, and came up meaning dog. So I double checked it there. It actually wasn't Greek. It was Catalan, which is a language from Spain. So GOS means dog into that language. So there's another meaning for it. But it was interesting with dogs. It struck me as you said that. Okay, I'm curious. Concerning space, dog space. No, there's constellations, dog constellations. So, which Sirius, you got the great K9 major, K9 minor, and other dog constellations, connected with Orion the Hunter, and Sirius, or Cirrus, one of the brightest stars, fifth brightest star in our visible sky, night sky. But they're all kind of in this area. So going outward, there's in the distance, there's a number of galaxies and other star systems, star clusters. So I'm wondering if this was the original seeding of life, or for this part of the galaxy, maybe, I don't know. So it's kind of all interesting how it all correlated. And I'll read this first page. Before the advent of time, which started when man got kicked out of the garden, before I founded Rhythm and Rhyme, at the instruction of God, again, Rhythm and Rhyme, Mount Parnassus, I, my brother, stood before God, waiting to receive his nod, his okay, authorization to go forth unto the cosmos. Cosmos would be our space, or cosmos would be space what's visible to us, to man, I take it to mean the entire universe, to seed the space of Gos, not to seed the entire cosmos, to seed the space of Gos. So, it's not, initially was life, not necessarily just human, other forms of life, in other worlds within this area of the dog constellations, from our perspective. Going out there in that area. So then they say, journey to every subsequent world, so other worlds, after that point, shedding a light as God's plan unfurled. So giving light to those worlds. worlds, and therefore life. And as God's plan unfurled, it has nourished the beginning of what was to come. Life, mankind, other life forms, only tending like gardening to a certain sum of the worlds. Each a piece of an infinite puzzle. It says we are all a piece of an infinite puzzle. These worlds are a piece of an infinite puzzle. A plan that played out, all he does, he'll give understanding to those. So a plan played out, all he does, he'll give understanding to those who seek. Morsels of bread be they meek. So I'm seeking, give me these little bit of morsels that I found out Mount Parnassus, and I've traveled, Mount Goss, little morsels will give me understanding. So I'm waiting to see if they come together and give me a clearer understanding of what they're talking about here. But it's just interesting that I wanted to share all those little things, little morsels, as they mentioned. And if we grasp those morsels and seek and hang on to them and believe that there's a connection somehow, enlightenment will come, grow. It's just an example of how you have to grow spiritually. You have to believe those little morsels like that. Even though you may not fully understand what they're about, embrace them and believe in them. There's some meaning to significance to them. Then they'll give you more, just like learning in school. So time will tell. We'll see. But I wanted to share that with everybody as an update of Goss. So hope that helps, give you some meaning and help you believe it and go about the rest of your day or your evening, keeping God priority number one always. Peace to Christ. God bless.